Bruce Lee was, without a doubt, the greatest martial artist to ever walk the earth. His speed was lightning fast. So fast, in fact, that he could catch grains of rice mid-air with chopsticks. His blows were so powerful, he could knock down opponents with just the flick of a few fingertips. But Bruce wasn't just a fighter. He was a philosopher, a teacher, and a visionary. Through Jeet Kune Do, the fighting style he pioneered, he taught not just combat, but a way of life. One rooted in self-awareness, discipline, and inner peace. At the height of his fame, with Hollywood at his feet and the world captivated by his every move, Bruce Lee's life was suddenly and tragically cut short. His death at just 32 shocked millions. The official report claimed cerebral edema brought on by a reaction to the painkiller Equagesic, and for decades, that explanation stood. But something about it never sat right. Fans, friends, and researchers couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story. Now, years later, new revelations have surfaced, uncovering what might actually be the true cause behind the untimely death of a legend. And trust us, it's nothing like what you've heard before. Bruce Lee's difficult childhood. Before he was a legend, Bruce Lee was just a baby with a destiny written in fire. Born Lee Junfan on November 27, 1940, in San Francisco's Chinatown, Bruce didn't arrive quietly. He was born in both the hour and year of the dragon, an omen of strength and greatness in Chinese astrology. It's no surprise, then, that his Chinese stage name became Li Xiu Lung, Li the Little Dragon. But Bruce's fire didn't come from astrology alone. It was in his blood. His father, Li Hoi-chuen, was a well-known Cantonese opera singer whose performances took the family across the globe. Bruce's mother, Grace Ho, born in Shanghai, came from a Eurasian background and carried a quiet resilience that would later shape Bruce's own outlook. In December 1939, his parents were touring the U.S. with an opera company when fate stepped in. During their stop in San Francisco, Grace gave birth to Bruce, an American citizen by birthright, thanks to U.S. jus soli laws. 4 months later, in April 1941, the Lee family returned to Hong Kong, unknowingly walking straight into chaos. By December 1941, Japan launched a brutal attack on Hong Kong, and the city fell under occupation for 4 long, desperate years. Amid the violence, food shortages, and fear, the Lee family struggled to survive. Bruce's earliest memories weren't of stardom. They were of war. Still, the spotlight found him early. Thanks to his father's connections in the entertainment industry, young Bruce was thrust into cinema practically from the cradle. His first role came as a baby, carried on stage in the film Golden Gate Girl. By the age of 7, he was already learning Tai Chi from his father. And by 9, Bruce was starring alongside his dad in the movie The Kid, his first leading role, based on the comic book character Kid Chung. By the time he turned 18, Bruce had already appeared in 20 films. Most kids his age were still trying to figure out algebra. Bruce was a veteran of the silver screen, but the big screen didn't shield him from hardship. In the early 1950s, Bruce's father fell into opium addiction, a devastating turn that shook the family's stability. At home, things were unraveling. At school, Bruce wasn't exactly a model student. He first attended Tak Sun School, not far from his home on Nathan Road in Kowloon, but academic struggles and possibly behavioral issues led to a transfer in 1956 to St. Francis Xavier's College. There, a new figure entered Bruce's life, Brother Edward Muss, a no-nonsense Bavarian-born teacher who also coached the school's boxing team. While many teachers wrote Bruce off, Brother Edward saw something different. A spark, a fire, a fighter. And he was right. Because Bruce Lee wasn't just born in the year of the dragon. He was the dragon. Bruce Lee training with Ip Man. By the time Bruce Lee turned 13, trouble had already learned his name and called him often. It all started in 1953 when a street-savvy friend named William Chung introduced Bruce to the legendary IP Man, the quiet master of Wing Chun Kung Fu. At first, Bruce was rejected. Why? Because of his mixed ancestry. His mother, Grace Ho, was part European, enough to make traditional Chinese martial arts circles whisper foreigner. And in those days, that was enough to keep the door closed. But William Chung didn't take no for an answer. He spoke up for Bruce, vouched for his heart, and got him in. Bruce started training with IP Man, and from the first move, it was clear. This wasn't just a hobby, it was an obsession. IP Man, hoping to keep his young students off the streets, encouraged organized competitions. But Bruce, he had his own ideas. The streets of Hong Kong were a daily battlefield, and Bruce found himself fighting more and more, sometimes just for pride, sometimes for survival. After a year, many of IP Man's students refused to train with Bruce once they discovered his heritage. But Bruce didn't walk away. He trained privately, often behind closed doors with IP, William Chung, and Wang Shunliang, a bruising group who sharpened his edge. In 1958, Bruce exploded into public view, winning the Hong Kong Inter-School Boxing Championship. He didn't just win, he knocked out the reigning champ, Gary Elms, in the final. Same year, he danced his way into another spotlight, taking the title at the Crown Colony Cha-Cha Championship. Fists and footwork, Bruce was untouchable. But the street never let go of him completely. That same year, Bruce got into a rooftop brawl with students from a rival Choi Li Fut school. One unfair punch set him off. He retaliated, knocking out a tooth. The boy's family ran to the police. Bruce's mother, Grace, had to rush to the station and sign legal responsibility for her son's behavior, begging for his release. She never even told Bruce's father, but she did make a crucial decision. It was time for Bruce to leave Hong Kong before the law, or the streets, swallowed him whole. At just 18, Bruce was sent back to San Francisco, where he was born. He stayed with his older sister, Agnes Lee, but didn't stay long. Within months, he moved to Seattle, enrolling in high school while working as a live-in waiter at the restaurant of Ruby Chow, a family friend. In this new world, far from the chaos of Hong Kong, Bruce wasn't trying to become a star. He was just trying to find himself. But destiny had other plans. He started teaching what he called Jun Fan Gong Fu, his personal take on Wing Chun. His first student, a judo practitioner named Jesse Glover. What followed was revolutionary. Bruce's early classes were filled with black, white, and Asian students alike, making it the most racially diverse martial arts group of its time. Bruce didn't just teach, he transformed martial arts. He began experimenting, studying boxing legends like Muhammad Ali and Sugar Ray Robinson, adapting their movements into his own style. He created the now famous one-inch punch, which could send a man flying with barely a flick of his arm. In 1961, he enrolled at the University of Washington, officially majoring in drama, though he often said it was philosophy that truly moved him. He took courses in both, lived in near poverty, washed dishes to survive, and yet made friends among Seattle's wealthy and elite. Even then, Bruce stood out. Sharp, electric, unforgettable. By 1964, he dropped out and moved to Oakland, where he partnered with James Yim Lee, a seasoned martial artist. The two opened Bruce's second Jun Fan studio, and it was James who introduced Bruce to Ed Parker, founder of American Kenpo. That same year, Bruce stepped into the global spotlight. At the 1964 Long Beach International Karate Championships, Bruce Lee made jaws drop. He performed two-finger push-ups, balancing on just a thumb and index finger, feet shoulder-width apart. Then came the 1-inch punch, delivered with such power that the volunteer, Bob Baker, later confessed, "I had to stay home from work. The pain was unbearable." Bruce's charisma was undeniable. His speed, his philosophy, and his boldness, all on full display. He didn't just demonstrate martial arts, he challenged them publicly. He criticized traditional karate and kung fu, claiming they were too rigid and too outdated. He called for modernization, for martial arts to evolve. To some, he was a visionary. To others, he was a threat. When he later presented his ideas in Chinatown, Oakland, more traditional masters saw it as a declaration of war. Bruce wasn't afraid. He was the little dragon, and he was just getting started. But not everyone welcomed his rise. The more Bruce pushed boundaries, the more traditionalists pushed back. And eventually, one challenge came that couldn't be ignored. A fight that didn't just test his skills, but shook the core of everything he believed. Bruce Lee's most controversial fight. There's one fight in Bruce Lee's life that people still talk about to this day. It wasn't in a movie, and it wasn't staged. It was real, and it happened in 1964, behind closed doors, with only a few people watching. The man Bruce fought was Wong Jack Man, a skilled martial artist from China. What happened that day became one of the most famous and most argued about moments in martial arts history. Even though there were only a few witnesses, there are several different versions of the fight. Some say Bruce Lee won easily. Others say it ended in a draw. Some even claim Wong Jack Man had the upper hand. What's true and what's not? That's the big question. And here's the full story. By the early 1960s, Bruce Lee was living in California and quickly gaining a name for himself. He wasn't yet a movie star, but he was already impressing people with his speed, strength, and new way of thinking about martial arts. Bruce believed martial arts should be useful in real fights, not just beautiful to watch. He also believed in teaching anyone who wanted to learn, no matter their race or background. This made some people in the Chinese martial arts world very unhappy. At that time, many believed Chinese kung fu should only be taught to other Chinese people. Bruce didn't agree, and he didn't stop teaching. He opened his own schools and taught students of all races, including famous actors like Steve McQueen and James Coburn. According to Bruce's wife, Linda Lee Caldwell, this caused big problems. Some Chinese martial arts leaders wanted him to stop. When he refused, they sent a challenge. They picked Wong Jack Man, a young martial artist, to fight Bruce. The agreement, Linda says, was simple. If Bruce lost, he had to stop teaching non-Chinese students. If he won, he could continue teaching anyone. But Wong Jack Man tells a different story. He says he didn't fight Bruce because of race or tradition. He says he was upset after Bruce had given a public kung fu performance, during which he challenged other fighters and made rude comments about some traditional styles. Wong felt Bruce had gone too far, and he stepped forward to answer the challenge. Regardless of what happened, a fight happened. The fight in question took place in a small room in Oakland, California. There were no cameras, no crowds, just Bruce Lee, Wong Jack Man, and a few people standing around the edges of the room, ready to watch history happen. From here, the story splits in different directions, depending on who you believe. According to one witness, William Chen, the fight lasted about 20 to 25 minutes. He says neither man clearly won. Wong didn't use his strongest kicks out of respect, and Bruce had trouble landing strong hits. Chen called it a draw. But Bruce's wife told a completely different story. She said the fight lasted less than 3 minutes. According to her, Bruce started strong and never stopped. Wong was overwhelmed by Bruce's fast punches and modern fighting style. She says Wong tried to run away during the fight, but Bruce chased him and kept hitting him until he gave up. This, she said, proved that Bruce was right to move away from traditional kung fu. The fight made him realize that real fights needed real techniques, not just beautiful forms. Bruce himself spoke briefly about a fight with a kung fu guy he had to chase down, and many believe he was talking about Wong Jack Man. After the fight, Bruce told people not to talk about it. He didn't want people arguing about who won. At first, Wong agreed, but as stories started spreading that he had lost badly, Wong became angry. He believed he was being painted as weak, and he felt it wasn't fair. So he decided to tell his side of the story. Wong said that Bruce cheated. He claimed Bruce faked a friendly handshake only to quickly strike him in the eyes. From there, Wong said Bruce went wild, like a mad bull. He said Bruce fought with the intent to seriously hurt or even kill him. Wong said he held back because he didn't want to cause serious injury. In his version, the fight ended not because he lost, but because Bruce got too tired to continue. Wong was so upset about being seen as the loser that he challenged Bruce to a rematch, publicly posting the challenge in a San Francisco newspaper. But Bruce never responded. The second fight never happened. So who really won? That's the big question, and the honest answer is we don't really know. There were no recordings. Each person involved tells a different story. Bruce's supporters say he won, and that his decision to keep teaching afterward proves it. Wong's defenders point to his public challenge. Why would a man who lost badly want to fight again? Even the length of the fight is debated. Some say it was 3 minutes. Others say 20. Was it a quick beatdown or a long back-and-forth match? No one agrees. Still, one important thing came out of the fight. Bruce changed. He was already moving away from traditional kung fu, but this fight pushed him further. He realized that following only one style was limiting. He wanted to mix styles, take the best parts of each, and build something new. That something new would become Jeet Kune Do, a martial art that Bruce created himself. It was fast, practical, and always evolving. Years later, Hollywood turned this fight into a movie, Birth of the Dragon. But that version added a lot of fiction. In the movie, Bruce and Wong fight to a draw and team up to beat a bigger enemy. But the real fight wasn't about heroes or villains. It was about two men who believed in different things. One believed in tradition, the other believed in change. Whether Bruce won or not, the fight changed his life. It taught him that in real combat, rules and forms didn't always work. It pushed him to think deeper, train harder, and challenge everything he thought he knew. It also showed that Bruce wasn't afraid to go against the system. He didn't just fight Wong Jack Man. He fought old ideas, strict traditions, and even racism. He believed that martial arts were for everyone, and he proved it with every punch, every class, and every word he spoke. In the end, maybe the winner isn't the person who threw more punches. Maybe the real winner is the one who learned something, changed, and inspired millions. And that person was Bruce Lee. And as Bruce's influence grew, so did his circle. Among those drawn to his intensity and vision was another rising martial arts star, Chuck Norris. Their legendary fight in the Way of the Dragon is known worldwide. But what most people don't know is what happened off-screen. Were Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris ever friends? Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris, two of the biggest names in martial arts, shared more than just a famous movie fight. While fans remember their epic showdown in the Way of the Dragon, their real-life friendship went much deeper. Both were born in 1940, but their lives were very different. Bruce Lee was born in San Francisco and raised in Hong Kong. He was a child actor and grew up around show business. His life was fast-paced and full of energy. Chuck Norris, on the other hand, was a quiet kid from Oklahoma. He discovered martial arts while serving in the U.S. Air Force in South Korea. That discovery changed his life. He became a karate champion and opened more than 30 karate schools. Their paths finally crossed in 1967 at the All-American Karate Championships in New York. Bruce was there to do a demonstration of his fast-flowing Jeet Kune Do moves. Chuck was there to compete, and he won the tournament. After the event, the two started talking. Their conversation turned into a friendly sparring session that went on until 4 a.m. that night. A friendship was born, built on respect, shared passion, and a love for martial arts. For the next couple of years, they trained together in Los Angeles. Many of their sessions took place in Bruce's backyard. Chuck was known for his powerful high kicks. Bruce, at the time, believed kicks should stay below the waist. Chuck challenged that idea and showed Bruce why high kicks could be useful. Bruce was impressed. While he had used high kicks in films before, his style changed. After training with Chuck, his kicks became faster, stronger, and more controlled. Eventually, Bruce moved back to Hong Kong to focus on his movie career, and the training stopped. But the friendship didn't. A few years later, when Bruce was filming The Way of the Dragon, he needed someone strong and skilled to be his opponent. He called Chuck. Their fight scene, shot in the Roman Colosseum, is now one of the most iconic martial arts scenes ever made. But it wasn't just acting. It was two friends showing the world what real martial arts could look like. No egos, no rivalry, just pure skill, trust, and years of hard work. Chuck Norris has always spoken highly of Bruce. He admired Bruce's focus, speed, and creativity. When asked who would win in a real fight, Chuck didn't give a direct answer. Instead, he quoted Bruce, "Showing off is the fool's idea of glory." Their fight in the film was amazing, but their friendship was the real story. Two legends, helping each other grow and making history together. Yet, for all the friendships Bruce built, not every connection in his life was so publicly celebrated. One, in particular, would ignite endless rumors, stain reputations, and cast a long shadow over his legacy. Bruce Lee's rumored affair. Bruce Lee was at the peak of his fame in 1973, an international superstar, martial arts star, and the face of a revolution in action cinema. But on July 20th of that same year, the 32-year-old was found dead in an apartment in Hong Kong, sending shockwaves around the world. The room belonged to Taiwanese actress Betty Ting Pei, and from that moment, her life would be forever linked to the mysterious death of the Bruce Lee. At the time, Bruce Lee was married to Linda Lee Cadwell. They met in Washington, where he worked as a martial arts instructor, and married in 1964. Together, they had two children, Brandon, born in 1965, and Shannon in 1969. Bruce trained Brandon from an early age, and the young Lee would go on to follow in his father's footsteps, landing roles in TV shows and starring in the 1991 film Showdown in Little Tokyo, alongside Dolph Lundgren. But Bruce never got to see his son's rise. His life was cut short under circumstances that still stir controversy. The official report? Death by misadventure. The cause? A cerebral edema, brain swelling, likely triggered by a reaction to a painkiller, Equagesic, which Betty Ting Pei had reportedly given him for a headache. But the public wasn't satisfied. Not with the setting, not with the story. Bruce Lee, fit, fast, and seemingly invincible, was found lifeless on another woman's bed. The headlines wrote themselves. But Betty Ting Pei wasn't just anyone, though. She was a rising actress under the Shaw Brothers studio. And according to her, she first met Bruce in 1972 at a Hong Kong hotel with producer Raymond Chow and Bruce's wife, Linda. They struck up a friendship, and Bruce later invited her to discuss The Way of the Dragon, the film he was shooting at the time. "We had something in common," Ting said in a later interview. "We were both genuine to people. He was someone who never told lies." But the gossip didn't care about common ground. Whispers turned into headlines. Was Betty his mistress? Was he cheating on Linda? Was his death a cover-up? One of the most persistent and salacious rumors claimed Lee died in the middle of a sexual encounter with Ting. She has always denied it. "I know what people were thinking about Bruce and me," she said in a 1983 television interview, "and this made me live a nightmare for 10 years. I think it's unfair, not only to me, but to Bruce. He was already dead." For decades, Ting remained in the shadows of that day. Despite repeated denials, the stigma followed her. The tragedy didn't just end Bruce Lee's life. It cast a permanent cloud over hers. And the truth? It may never be fully known. But what remains is the fact that Bruce Lee died young, at the height of his power, in a place and in a situation that ignited decades of rumor and speculation. Whether Betty Ting Pei was a friend, a lover, or simply someone caught in the middle of a legend's final moments, her name has been stitched, rightly or wrongly, into one of Hollywood's most enduring mysteries. The mystery surrounding Bruce Lee's death. On July 20th, 1973, Bruce Lee died suddenly at just 32 years old. The world was stunned. One moment, he was putting the finishing touches on Game of Death and preparing for global stardom. The next, he was gone, found unresponsive in the Hong Kong apartment of actress Betty Ting Pei. Earlier that day, Lee had met with producer Raymond Chow and Ting to go over script details. At some point, he complained of a headache. Ting offered him a painkiller, Equagesic, a combination of aspirin and a tranquilizer. Lee took it, laid down to rest, and never woke up. By nightfall, word had spread. Hong Kong's police commissioner was at a party full of media figures when the call came in. Reporters rushed to Queen Elizabeth Hospital, where Lee had been taken by ambulance, only to learn it was too late. The dragon was dead. The cause? Officially, cerebral edema, swelling of the brain. But that's where the certainty ends. Lee had suffered a similar episode 2 months earlier on the set of Enter the Dragon. He collapsed, was hospitalized, diagnosed with cerebral edema, and recovered. So, when he died from the same condition, questions exploded. Some blamed Equagesic. Others pointed to traces of cannabis in his system, though forensic pathologist Donald Tier dismissed that theory outright. In his 2018 biography, Bruce Lee, A Life, Matthew Polly suggested it may have been heat stroke. Lee had undergone surgery in 1972 to remove his underarm sweat glands, reportedly for aesthetic reasons, which may have impaired his body's ability to cool down. But in 2022, kidney specialists in Spain published a study arguing Lee may have died from overhydration. His kidneys, they suggested, simply couldn't flush the excess water fast enough, triggering fatal brain swelling. Whatever the cause, the death was fast, final, and surrounded by chaos. The fact that he died in another woman's apartment only fueled tabloid fire. Betty Ting Pei spent years dodging rumors, some accusing her of poisoning him, others claiming he died during sex. She's denied them all, calling the ordeal a decade-long nightmare. At home, Lee left behind Linda, his wife of 9 years, and their 2 children, Brandon, 8, and Shannon, 4. Both would grow up to follow in his footsteps. Brandon, a rising star in his own right, was tragically killed on the set of The Crow in 1993 after a prop gun misfired during filming. He was 28. Shannon became the guardian of the Lee legacy, an actress, martial artist, and now president of the Bruce Lee Foundation. She also serves as executive producer of Warrior, the hit series based on her father's original writings. In the decades since his death, Bruce Lee's legend has only grown. A statue stands in Hong Kong. Time named him one of the 100 most influential people of the 20th century. His martial arts philosophy, Jeet Kune Do, laid the groundwork for what would become modern MMA. Even UFC fighters today quote him like scripture. And yet, nearly 50 years later, the final chapter of Bruce Lee's life is still debated, still dissected, still shrouded in mystery. Maybe that's fitting. Bruce Lee never belonged to just one place or discipline. He was a global icon, too fast for any one style, too powerful for any box. Not even death could stop people from asking what really happened, because when legends die young, the world never stops looking for answers. Do you think Bruce Lee is really one of the greatest martial arts artists? Share your thoughts with us in the comments below. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Also click the next video shown on your screen. You will enjoy it.